Hello from a snowy New York.
Greetings from a grey London.
Good. So we are continuing our ambition to make the word of the year for 2020 simplify. And if you've seen previous episodes, you'll know that we've been talking about how marketers have been getting headaches the last few years with an increasing complexity in a number of areas of the media industry. And we think we want to start a mission to try and simplify media. And so in this episode, we are going to lay out a very clear action plan of some areas where we think media can be simplified to make life better for marketers. Okay, mate, so what is going on?
Well, firstly, let me state that I love working in media now. I feel more inspired about media now than ever before. But it is complicated. Media used to be relatively straightforward. It used to be about reaching the right audience in the right environment with the right message at the right price. But digital fragmentation, technology, data, different agencies, different languages, different words that we have for media has just made the whole industry, the whole discipline so complicated and confusing that I think many marketeers are switching off.
Yeah, and that's a problem because if marketers find media overwhelming or intimidating or just plain boring, that doesn't hold much hope for this great industry.
Right.
And if anything, we need to be appealing to more senior marketers, right? We want more CMOs getting excited about media, perhaps in a way that Mark Pritchard and a couple of others have demonstrated over the last few years. So complexity is in nobody's interest.
So Tom, what are the implications?
Well, the first thing is, based on what I just said, complexity is in no one's interest. There are some people who have an interest in complexity, and there are plenty, I think, of companies and so-called specialists in these, forensic different digital disciplines who have probably made quite a good business out of complexity for the last kind of 5 or 6 years. That's got to stop because we've got to kind of wheedle that out, and I think that's where most of the frustration on the marketer sits. But in terms of implications, I think there's 3 main ones. The first thing is that media is just getting boring. And that's a problem for the industry, as I'd mentioned, because if we start finding that marketers and CMOs and CFOs, CEOs just cannot engage with the media industry, which, by the way, is the largest, typically the largest marketing investment or marcoms investment that most companies make. In many cases, it's one of the largest total company investments every year. And if there's only a couple of people in the business, in a large multinational corporation that really understand this horrible complex industry, then that's a worry for major corporations. So corporations should be demanding, as they are. Marketers are saying we need it to be simpler to understand, much simpler for us to engage our very senior leadership in media because they recognize it's a big number and they want to take part in it, but they feel constantly like it's a very complex, highly technical area, which it's not, right? Which we know, having been in media for 20 plus years, as many people will recognize, the principle is exactly the same. Digital changes nothing. And it's not just digital, by the way, that creates this complexity. It's a lot of other language. But trying to target, for a brand to target the right people in the right moment with the right message, nothing of that has changed in the last 20 years. Still the same principle, but we've got bogged down in the complexities of trying to prove that and perhaps kind of lost a lot of the craft of it. So number one is let's just make media a little bit more interesting for people that are not, specialists or, technical practitioners. The second thing is it has implications on the way marketers work with external partners. And we run a lot of media agency pitches, as we talk about a lot. And one of the things that we've observed over the last 2 or 3 years is that a typical media agency pitch has shifted in its kind of proposition from being about people and ideas to being about data and optimization. Now, both of those things you might say are important, and they are. But now a typical media agency pitch starts with a data story. And we've seen all of them, most of the agency groups making big acquisitions in data companies, and that's I'm sure a viable strategy for them. But it's completely dominated the conversation. And we're missing, which is my third point. So if the first one is that it's boring, the second one is that it's hard for marketers to find good partners because they're not being able to see the people with the ideas. it comes on to the third point, which is that we have lost the creativity in media. It doesn't feel like an exciting heartbeat of the marketing kind of function. As we've said before, it feels increasingly like a financial optimization exercise with lots of technical jargon and complexity. And we've lost the craft and the creativity in media. Media should be more fun to plan now than it was 10 years ago, but I'm not sure that's the case. There are many, many more options and many more things that you can do, and many far better ways to measure and to integrate different media channels for effect. So it should be the best time to be a media planner, but it's increasingly frustrating, and we do not see the creativity, craft and ideas coming from the industry in a way that we want, because the language around them is made so complicated, either accidentally, because people just frankly are ignorant about how to make things simple, or it's being done maliciously to intimidate the marketer into parting with their money in ways that maybe they don't understand. Okay then, so as a marketer, what can you do to simplify?
Well, you've got to remember one thing as a marketeer, is that you are in control. Okay, so you dictate the terms by which the market operates, because you're the ones with the money. So if there is something that is complicated, something that you don't understand, don't be afraid to challenge the agency, the person that is trying to complicate or confuse you. Call out the issue, the confusion in it. And I think many marketeers are beginning to do that now anyway. They feel empowered and emboldened, enabled to do that. But it starts with, I think, operationalizing a simpler media organization, and many companies are doing that internally. So making media simpler internally is going to act as a catalyst for simplifying it externally. Once they've got the operational bit done easier, then it's about process, and that comes from challenging the agencies to make the process by which they spend your money far easier to understand and simpler to have visibility over. Thirdly, it's on the language. We've created an industry that is incomprehensible to most people because of the language and the acronyms that we use. The C-suites in many organizations have no idea what media is around because they're using a language that is incoherent to them. That's the agency's job, to make that language simpler. And it will come from the marketeers that demand a simplification of the vocabulary. And fourthly, to your point, Tom, data and technology are simply enablers of smarter, more considered media thinking. And that's the way that they should be looked at. They are facilitators of better ideation. And insisting that people are bringing in the craft and the creativity of media, which is enabled better by the multitude of technologies that they have at their disposal and the vast quantities of data, but they are simply facilitators of really smart creative thinking. So marketeers, you're in control. You can dictate the language with which the industry talks about media. So, take on that responsibility is what I would say.
Yep. As you've mentioned, we're seeing this in a number of marketing organizations at the moment, making really good efforts to really simplify their KPIs, right? They're real indicators of success, down from far too many things that are being measured that probably don't matter, to a few key things, which is what they should be. And those are things that you can then brief to any other partner that you're working with. In the future, those companies that succeed to service the needs of marketers will be those that can talk plain English, because you will be able to reach up higher in that client advertiser organization, and your message will go far wider. And we know as humans, right, people that can explain the complex in simple ways really are the people that understand the complexity, and they will have increasingly value as the industry inevitably gets more complex as a system. We need humans to be able to communicate with each other in much more simple ways.
Well said.
Okay, so look out in the new year as we go into 2020. Simplify is our word of the year, and we will be releasing a manifesto for simplifying media. So that will be with you in January. We'll talk about that. But that's your media snack for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what we do, please give a thumbs up. It really does matter, and you can subscribe to receive future episodes. But thank you for watching. Bye for now.
See you next time.